Okay. Shoot. I don't want the video stopped.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our lecture today for the topic of life after death. And it's good to have all of you with us. We are going to, just a couple of notes that I wanted to make. We're going to be utilizing the chat box for questions today. So if you have any questions, please use that chat box. If you're new to Zoom, it's I believe on the bottom of your screen. It looks different on some other people's screens. But you'll see a box that says chat, and if you click that and open that, we have two moderators, Peggy Brown and Margaret Onkel, who you'll see there. They may be rising to the top of your screen, but they will be answering the chat box. They will be monitoring your questions, and then they will field those questions to me. So it's absolutely wonderful to have you all. This is the conclusion of a series of 5 free lectures that I gave for the first time on Zoom. And I want to, first of all, thank many of you who have donated towards these sessions. It's been greatly appreciated. As any other business, we've been hit pretty hard by COVID for the last over a year now. Our facility has been closed since March of 2020, so it's been a long haul. For those of you who don't know what we do, Spring Farm Cares is an animal and nature sanctuary. We have 250 animals in residence here pretty much all the time. That number fluctuates just a little bit, and that's ranging from horses and donkeys and ponies to goats and sheep and chickens and ducks and cats. We have 160 cats, so lots of cats. And they live out their days here with us. But the prime focus of Spring Farm Cares, the primary purpose, is to be reuniting the human heart and healing the human heart by spending time with the animals and nature and helping people to reconnect to our basic roots of connecting with animals and nature. And that's a very healing thing. And that's what we're here for. So we're an animal sanctuary with a very spiritual purpose. All of the work that I've done over the last 30 years, I'm the co-founder of Spring Farm Cares, along with Bonnie Reynolds. And for the last 30 years, we've been on this journey. Any of the consultation fees that I've collected and workshop fees for my animal communication work have all gone, every penny has gone to Spring Farm Cares. So anytime you come to an event here with me or attend a lecture or whatever, all of that goes back directly to the animals and to our mission. So I just wanted to thank everybody who has donated. We greatly appreciate that. I'm going to start today's lecture off with a video. And this video is actually the start of the workshop. So hopefully you will be able to see this video. We had a little technical difficulty. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. This is being recorded, so if you missed this first part, you can watch it again when I post it online. And we'll see if I can get this to work. So I hope people were able to see that. Um, I just want to start off by saying that out of all the classes that I teach, I've been teaching animal communication classes for over 30 years. And the animal communication.
Excuse me, Dawn,
Yes,
could you please switch to speaker view?
I am in speaker view.
Okay, thank you.
Can you switch yourself to speaker view?
Thank you, yep.
Okay. All right. I am going over okay though, correct? Okay. Out of all the classes that I teach, the Embracing Spirit class, which deals with death and dying and life after death, is near and dear to my soul. So animal communication is one thing, and many of you know me through my animal communication work. But this work, I want to tell you just a little bit about this for me, because I've been doing this kind of work since I was a kid, and I want to explain what this work is. So things are, I work a little bit differently than a lot of other people on many levels. Everybody is unique in how they receive information. No two people work alike. But for me, since I was a child, I was aware at a very young age, probably when I became consciously aware, I was about 10 years old, of being able to travel between both worlds, in the spirit realm and in the physical realm. And this was long before I ever even dreamed of becoming an animal communicator. So, however, animal communication opened all this up to me to understand and to put a reasoning behind what was happening to me since I was a kid. So I had, as a child, I couldn't put these words to it, but I had a lot of guides that would come to me, especially in my sleep state. And these guides would come to me and tell me things, but also ask me to do things. So I've shared this story. There is a YouTube video of the story that some of you may have already seen. But I want to kind of step into this, because if you take away one thing from today, I hope you will take away this, is that your loved ones that are in spirit are very aware of everything about you. They're aware of your feelings. They keep in touch with you. And we often miss their messages back to us because we are in the physical realm. We're not looking for their communications a lot of the times. But if there's one thing that your loved ones want you to know, it's that they're okay and that they feel your love. Every time you think of them and you feel that love you have for them, and even though you're missing them, they feel that and they send that love back to you. And you always share that connection. It's eternal and it surpasses the physical realm. And I always say, I just have to tell you all that when I started out in animal communication, and when I first heard of animal communication, I was a skeptic. I didn't believe in anything. I didn't believe in very many spiritual things or whatever, even though I'm describing to you, I'm going to tell you now about a story that happened to me when I was 10. But somehow there was a disconnect for me, because I got to be about 16 or 17 and realized that I didn't hear other people around me talking about these same kinds of experiences. And when I started identifying these as being different, I started trying to back out of those experiences in my life, which didn't work out so well, because I ended up having guides that were more and more persistent and giving me a lot of directions. So let me just tell you this experience, and I'll explain to you my experience with animals and humans as they cross over and what happens with them. So I, as a 10-year-old, I had gone to bed one night, and somewhere in the middle of the night, I had, in the dream state, I had a guide come to me. I can put these words to it now. But when I was a child, I just, to myself, called them my friends, my dream friends, and they would just come. And so one guide came to me, and he told me that he needed my help with something, and he asked if I would be willing to come with him and help him. So I said, sure, why not? So I went with him, and suddenly we were on a road, on a residential street, it looked like. It was a car, and the car was all smashed and smoke was coming out of it, and it was obviously a bad accident. So I saw the car, and we walked out into the road, and we went across the street, and on the curb, sitting on the curb, were two children, brother and a sister. They were twins. And I knew a lot about them, and I didn't think that was strange at the time, but I just seemed to understand. I knew their names. I knew who they were, even though they weren't anybody I knew in my physical waking life. And the guide asked me if I could help, that he needed my help to talk to these kids. And he said, they're about your age and they will listen to you. So I asked him, why can't you do this? And he said, because I need you to do it. So I said, okay. So I said, what do I need to do? And he said, it's really simple. They can't find their parents, and all you need to do is help them find their parents. And he said, I can tell you where they are. You just need to show them. And I said, okay, that sounds fine with me. So he told me, he said, look over here to this playground. And there was a playground right across the street. And he said, there was a great big soccer field. And he said, as you get to the soccer field, he said, you just have to take these kids across the soccer field to the other side. And when you get to the other side, you're going to see a chalk line. And when you get to that chalk line, you are allowed to step over with them, but you have to come right back. And when you're told to come right back, you have to come right back to me. And he said, you're going to have to run right back to me as fast as you can. Do you understand that? So I said, yes, that makes sense. And he said, you'll be totally safe. Everything is fine. But I just need you to understand that when you get to that chalk line, you have to come back. And so I said, that's fine. So I went over to the kids and started talking to them. And I'm going to try to truncate this story because there's so much I want to share with all of you. They at first had trouble communicating with me. The brother didn't want to really talk to me. He wouldn't even look up at me. The sister acknowledged me right away. And I told them that I could help them find their parents. And they were very despondent. They were convinced they could not find their parents. And so I told them that if they came with me, that we could take a walk and that I could take them to where their parents were. So they agreed to do this. And so we walked along and we went into the soccer field and we started going across, and they were talking to me. And just like kids will do, the three of us were chatting and talking about different things. And then as we were walking across the soccer field, we could see this playground with playground equipment, swing sets and things like that over on it. And there were a bunch of kids playing there. And one little girl from off of the play set came running over and introduced herself and said, hey, you guys want to come play with me? And I told them that we needed to get across to the other side first, to the other side of the soccer field first to meet somebody. And she told the two kids, the twins, that when they were ready, if they wanted to come back and play with them, that they were welcome to join them. So we continued walking across, and it was like almost misty, I want to say, like not really a fog, but just kind of a misty feeling the further we got into the soccer field. And by the time I got to the end of the other end of the soccer field, I could see people there. There were three people, a man, a woman, and then another man that stood off to the side. And the kids that I was with couldn't see them because I said, oh, I think I see your parents, but they couldn't see anybody there. But I could see them. So I kept walking towards them, and I could see the chalk line. And as we got closer and we stepped across the chalk line, suddenly the twins could see those people. And I saw the woman drop down to her knees, and she was crying, and she had her arms widespread. And the two kids yelled, mommy, and they ran to her, and their dad and their mom all embraced them both. And they all were crying and happy to see each other. And then the other man that was standing off to the side immediately approached me and said, you have to go now. And he turned me around and he said, go back across and run as fast as you can back to the other side, which I did. But I have to tell you that the feeling inside that chalk line where the parents were was a feeling like I had never experienced before. It was complete peace, unconditional love. It was a place that I actually wouldn't have wanted to leave. It was beautiful. But I did what I was told, and plus this gentleman who was pushing me over across the chalk line was pretty insistent. And I ran back to where my guide was, and he said to me, "You did a very, very good job. Thank you so much. Can I call on you again if I need your help?" So I said, "Sure." Now, keeping in mind, I'm 10 years old. I wake up bolt upright in my bed, and with a full memory of everything that happened, and a full, complete understanding, even at 10, that this was not a dream and that I had just had an experience. And I knew what my experience was. And I knew that that experience was that I had helped these two children to cross into spirit to join their parents. I didn't know what to do with any of that information, but I knew that I couldn't share it. So I kept that with me for many years until there's, and in my workshop, I talk about this. I don't have time to do that in here. So I'm just going to have to tell you that segue fast forward to many years later. I have had hundreds of these cases that I've been called on to help people cross over. Many times I'm called when there's an accident. I'm frequently called in a trauma situation, natural disasters. It's been all sorts of things over the years where I've been called in by guides to try to help and not try to help, but to help in situations where people or animals are trying to cross. The big takeaway from this is that there is always help on the other side. I wondered for many, many years, why was I being called? So I finally, one night, when I had an experience with this, asked one of my guides if they could explain this to me, please, as to why was I needed? Why was my help needed? Why couldn't they do this? If everybody has guides, and I would see people's guides with them when I was there. If everybody has these guides, then why am I needed to help? The answer I got was that sometimes the guides can't step into the physical realm and to reach in. They have to stay where they are until the person crossing over gets to them. And sometimes that person needs help or just a companion to get them over, but it needs to be someone from the physical realm that can walk over. In all these years that I've been doing this, if I give my age away, I have to be careful, but it's almost been 50. In all the years I've been doing this, I've recently had an experience with a human who I was helping that explained to me, he explained to me that I'm what's called an in-between, and that I can go in between realms, and that I can cross both realms. Now, I'm not the only in-between that does this. I have met in the spirit realm, or in that realm, I have met other people helping the same way I am. I've frequently been on a team of people helping. So this is the perspective that I'm coming to in this lecture, coming from, is having experienced many experiences of helping people and animals cross over. And I have done that both in the waking state and in the sleep state. The biggest thing that I just want people to know is that nobody's ever alone. There's always help for them. There's always somebody there. And I've had the experience of helping people cross over. Most of them are total strangers that I didn't know. However, I would like to share, and Margaret has given me permission to do this. I would like to share one experience, and then I can see there are questions coming in, so I will turn it over to questions shortly. But I'd like to share a personal experience of helping somebody that I did know cross over. And I've had more than one of these now, but this was the first time this happened. There was always a part in my head somewhere that thought, maybe this was all a dream and this isn't really real, even though I know it's real. There was always a part of me that wanted to rationalize and say, it's just a dream or whatever. But then I've had some of these cases happen where clearly it's real. And I know they're all real. So my life partner, Margaret, is from Germany, and her mother lived in Germany and spoke a little bit of English, not very much. And I don't speak any German. So when I would go over to meet with her or to visit her with Margaret, Margaret would have to translate everything. And Margaret's mother was failing in health. And so we knew that. But so one morning, it was early in the morning, probably, I don't know, 5:30 in the morning, something like that. I was still asleep when suddenly I was called by a guide and to help somebody. And this happens routinely for me. So it's not, it catches my attention, obviously, but it wasn't anything unusual. So I was asked, and it happened to be this guide was actually somebody I knew that had crossed over, somebody that was in a grandmother role for me. And she showed up and she said, honey, we need your help. Can you come and help with this? And I said, sure. What's going on? And she said, there's somebody that is having trouble crossing and we need you to help her find her way. And I said, okay, great. And for me, it always starts out in a hallway with doors. And that's frequent, or in a tent. Sometimes it's outside in a tent. But anyway, this was in a hallway. And I walked through a door and suddenly I recognized immediately where I was. I was in Margaret's mother's house. And it was like I had x-ray vision. I could see through the walls, and I could see Margaret's mother was standing at a dresser drawer, like a cabinet with drawers, and was desperately looking through to find something. And I knew instantly why I was called there. And so the first thing I did is I said to the guide that was with me, no way, I'm not doing this, no way. And so the guide said to me, why not? And I said, because I had to think quick. And I said, well, I don't speak German and she doesn't speak English. And so the guide said to me, honey, that's ridiculous. And that's not a problem here. And you know that. And the guide disappeared and there I was. So I walked to where Margaret's mother was standing, and she heard me come in the room and she turned around and she said, oh, I'm in perfect English too. It was amazing. So she said, I'm so glad you're here. She said, I can't find the key. And I said, what key? And she said, the key to the front gate. So on this particular, in her property, there was like 90 steps or 100 steps, whatever it is, down to the street level. And at the street level, there was a big iron gate, and it had a big keyhole in there, like for a lock, but from the inside, you could just take the handle and open the gate. It was only locked from the outside. So she didn't need a key to get out. And so I said to her, I don't think you need the key to get out of the gate. And I felt funny saying this to her, since this was the place she lived for over 50 years. She should know, but she said, I tried. I went down and I can't open the gate. And she was very tired and she was very frail. So I said to her, I'll tell you what, let's go down together. And if we can't open the gate, I will come back up and I will look for the key. But I think we can open the gate. I think I'll be able to do that. So she said, okay, that'd be great. And we started a journey down all of these stairs. She was on the second floor of her house. And first we had to walk down to the first floor, and then we had to go out and all the way down to the street level. And through this, it winds its way down through gardens, and there are statuary and things like that. And she would stop every so often and she would talk to me about what the different garden figures were and what it meant to her. And we eventually got down to the street level, and she took hold of the gate, and it indeed didn't open. So I took hold of the gate, and of course it opened. So it opened the gate, and on this, in reality, when you open this gate, the curb of the street is like right there, and you step out almost like right into the street. So when we opened the gate, we stepped out, and instantly another staircase opened. And I don't know what it was with her with stairs, but this was going to be an issue. So this huge staircase opened, and I know now from all the years of experience I have this, that I am now crossing the chalk line. Okay, so that curb was that magical chalk line. And so I'm now going to walk her up the stairs. And so we go together. She's holding my arm, And we go up the stairs, and she can't see this yet, but I can always see ahead of where they are. When I then see a gentleman in a top hat and coattails sitting at a round, like, cafe table with a couple of cups, looks like coffee cups or teacups. And he's, the hat is sitting on the table, and he's waiting for her. And as we walk up the stairs and we get up to the top, he puts his hat on and he stands up. And she still can't see him yet. But as we reach the top of the staircase and we walk in, we take a step in, she could see him. And she just lit up with joy. She was so incredibly happy, and I could feel her whole body just instantly get light. And all of that heavy, the tiredness that she felt, and not being able to move all that well, just instantly disappeared. And she ran to him, and he embraced her, and then they started dancing. And they danced and danced and danced. And that's when I would have stayed there forever, but that's when I got kicked out. So I was told to hurry up and get down the stairs, and I had to run back down the stairs. And as soon as I hit that curb at the bottom of the stairs, I was again bolt upright in my bed. I sat bolt upright because I knew what just had happened. And I thought, how do I even say this to Margaret? My heart was pounding. And I said, maybe this isn't right. Maybe this didn't happen. Maybe this wasn't real. And as I'm trying to catch my breath and my heart is pounding, it wasn't more than 5 or 10 minutes that the phone rang. And it was Margaret's brother in Germany letting her know that her mother had just passed away. And it was the most amazing, that was the most confirmation up to that point that I had like that. And when I relayed the story to Margaret, I thought maybe her mother was meeting Margaret's father, who had passed before her. But Margaret said to me, if she met my father, I know she wouldn't have been in the right place. So that's the last person she would have wanted to meet. So she knew who it was, though, by my description and by how excited and by the fact that they danced together. And that was her dad who was waiting for her. And she loved her dad, and they were very close, and she loved to dance with him. They loved to dance together. So I was very honored and privileged to be a part of that crossing where I could help her find her way out. The symbology of the lock, her not being able to get out, was for many, many years of her life. She felt that she was locked in a gilded cage. Her husband was very restrictive with her, and that was basically it. She was stuck in that house. Not that she never left the house, but there was a psychological part of her of being stuck there, and she thought she couldn't leave, that she couldn't be free. So my being there helped her to be able to cross through there and to get to that freedom that she was looking for. So those are a couple of stories. Do we have questions already, guys?
Oh, yes, we do have questions. You just answered somebody's questions who wanted to know whether you ever know the spirits that you helped cross over. So I think the lady probably would be happy that you answered the question already.
Yeah.
There are several others. There are many others. Anyhow, one of the questions is, by the way, folks, right now I'm not taking them in the sequence in which you have given them to us, but we will get to all your questions. One of the questions is, did you help anyone cross over during 9/11?
Yes. And I just want to preface this by saying that this isn't about, I'm not trying to tout my skills. It's not about that. The biggest part I want to get through is an example of how your loved ones are there with you. That's the biggest thing. It's not about what I can do or can't do. I did actually help with some people after 9/11, and it was not planned, anticipated on my part. And it was actually several weeks after 9/11 that I had a dream. And I was called by guides. It was more than me. There were actually several of us that were called. But for me, the experience was I was standing in an area local to where we live here. There's a river, the Mohawk River, which flows down to the Hudson. And I was actually standing on a bridge on the river on a beautiful blue sky, sunny day. And there was this guide standing with me, and he said to me, I want you to look at this scene. And first of all, I'm on the wrong side of the bridge, so I didn't understand this. It was like I felt like I was going to jump off the bridge, and that wasn't a good thing for me because I was scared of heights. So I'm on the wrong side of the railing on the bridge with this guide who says to me, "You're safe, don't worry." And he says, "Do you notice anything different about this scene? Is there anything different?" And what was different, it was a pure blue sky day, but there was this huge cloud, this great big white fluffy cloud that was following the river. It was just over the river, and it was following the river. And he says to me, sometimes these things are deceiving and it doesn't look like what it is, but your help is needed. So he hands me this little box, and it looked like a square box, smaller than a shoebox. But he says, this won't make sense to you now, but keep this with you. So he hands it to me, and I then somehow, it all happened very quickly. It was like an elevator just took me up inside the cloud, which I then got lost involved in this because when I was a little kid, I used to think that you could walk in the clouds, and I used to want to walk in the clouds. So now suddenly I'm walking in the clouds, and I was totally taken with this. So I kept putting my hand down through the cloud and then putting my leg down through the cloud. And finally this person came up to me and said, I think you have other things you should be doing now. Like, pay attention to the program here. So it was a woman, and she said to me, do you have a box? Did they give you a box? And I was like, oh yeah, they always interrupt me at the good part, and then I have to go to work, right? So they give me this box. I said, yeah, I have this box. So she said, great, give me the box. So I give it to her, and she twists the top off in a weird way. It twisted, and she flipped it over, and it actually became this huge phone, like a cell phone. Remember the old bag phones? For those of you who are old enough to remember the bag phones, it was a phone like that. It was like a satellite phone or something. It was this very techie looking phone. And so she says to me, you're going to need this, and you have a big job ahead of you, so please get to work. So I was like, all right, what am I doing? So she said, look around. So inside this cloud were all men. It was all men. There were no women there. It was all men carrying briefcases, and clearly businessmen. I instantly knew they were like in the financial sector, and they were agitatedly walking around this cloud. And so I went to turn to my guide that was with me to say, what do I do? And she was gone. And this frequently happens in these things, and I get left there trying to figure it out. So this man walked up to me, and he says, do you have the phone? And I said, yes. And he said, oh, thank goodness. And he grabbed the phone, and he started dialing something. He just punched in a number, and his hands were shaking. He was so desperate for this phone. And so he calls somebody, and he says, Judy, it's me. I just need you to know it's okay. I love you. I'm fine. I hope the kids are okay. You're all going to be fine. I'm still here. I just needed you to know that. And he said, I love you, honey. And then he hung up, and he gave me the phone back, and he said, thank you so much. And then he just was whisked out of the cloud. Then the next person came up to me. I gave him the phone, and he said, thank you so much. And he calls, Mom, it's me. I just wanted to let you know I'm okay. I'm totally okay. Don't be worried about me. I'm fine. I just want to tell you I love you, and I want to thank you for everything. He hangs up the phone, and he hands me back the phone, and he goes whiff right out of the cloud again. This happened about 30 times to the group of people that I was in until they were all gone. And then as soon as the last one left, I was also out of the cloud and back on the bridge, and desperate to climb over the railing onto the other side of the bridge. But anyway, ended up waking up And again, totally understanding, I understood that these were 9/11 people. It was just something that I intuitively understood. And obviously, they couldn't transition to where they needed to go until they could get messages back to their loved ones to make sure that their loved ones knew that they were okay.
Okay, you're ready for another question.
Go ahead.
Okay. In a previous class, you spoke about horses feeling a loss when the stablemate leaves suddenly or gets moved. Why would this be? Couldn't the horse simply connect with a friend and ask where they are and what happened? If they can connect to departed friends in spirit, why not living ones that have been moved?
And that's a great question. And it holds true to humans too. And here's why. Because if we suddenly are feeling the loss and we're in grief and loss, we don't connect. We don't connect because we're feeling that disconnect and we don't allow that connection to come through. So it's our understanding. So same thing when we are missing our loved ones, whether we know, in the case of the horse in the barn, let's stick with the horse for this example. Suddenly their horse friend is gone and they don't know where they went. They don't know if they died or if they moved or whatever, but they're just feeling the grief of that loss and they're stuck in the grief of that loss. It's the same thing that happens to us when we lose somebody and we're feeling intense grief. We're not feeling their communications to us with their love and their messages because the grief keeps us separated from that. It's truly a matter of that fog lifting. Because could that horse connect with the other horse to know it's okay? Yes, but they're also just lost in the thing like, where did he go? Where did he go? And they're not connecting, if that makes sense.
Don, another question is, some animals will reincarnate once they pass away, but what happens to those who choose not to reincarnate? Do they have little missions? Do they have little purposes?
Yes. So my experience, and I can only answer from my experience, and I have to just tell you, in anything, there are no absolutes. So I shouldn't say, so I can say in an absolute, you'll never hear me say in every case, this is what happens, but that's an absolute, isn't it? My experience is that I'll use my horse Deteza. So Deteza she was the first message in that video that I played. And at the beginning of this, and Deteza was my heart and soul. She's the horse that opened up the animal communication for me. She believed in me, she took hold of me, and she made it possible for me to be sitting here today giving this lecture because she just opened a whole world up to me and let me realize that this was all real and that it was okay. And when Deteza died, it was a very devastating experience for me. But I also knew, because she had prepared me before she left even, she wasn't sick, her death was very sudden and unexpected. But she had prepared me for, I don't know, probably about a year before she died, that she was not going to be coming back to me in this lifetime, that I would not have her back with me. And I used to, when she died in particular, I found that to be devastating. And I thought, why did she have to tell me this? And she said, because you will get lost in this. So I asked her, what is the purpose of that? What is she doing? And she said that she needed to be able to reach me at a different level. And it's not just me, she worked with others, because I asked that question too. I wanted the answer to be that she only worked with me, but that wasn't true. She worked with lots of other people and animals and beings. But she's also still pursuing her own growth and her own spiritual purpose. And we in the physical realm can't make sense of that. We can't put, I can't explain it to you. I can feel it when I travel into the spirit realm. I can tell you that like everything is different, but I can't put it into physical terms because it's not physical. So it's very difficult to explain that. So Deteza is still working on her purpose and on her growth and doing things that don't require her to have a physical body. So yes, they continue on.
Okay, Dawn, do animals always come back as the same species? Or have there ever been a human before in some previous life?
So they don't always come back as the same species, but frequently they do, because they'll find a form that fits them the best, that they really like. It's like finding a comfortable outfit that we like to wear, or our favorite shoes. It depends on, as a soul, what they're working on. Some species suit them better to experience certain things. I asked this question of one of our ponies once, named Sugar. Actually, I used to teach some of the workshops I had years ago. We used to have people come in, and I would do like a one night, it was like an open mic thing, and I will never do this again. So don't think that you're going to talk me into this, because there's no way I will do this again. So it was like open mic at Spring Farm. So people would come, and we'd be out in the barn, and people would ask questions of the animals. They'd interview them. Of course, I had to do all the work. They would ask the questions, and I would have to get all the answers. So one of them actually asked one of our ponies, named Sugar, if she's ever been a human before. And the answer was yes, but she said, I don't know why you put so much credence in that. If you think that being a human is better, or that it's higher up, you'd be wrong. You're just learning different things. So they can come back as anything they want, actually. So can we.
Oh, is it my turn?
Dawn, if you know that an animal of yours that you love deeply has a terminal disease, is there anything you can do to help prepare? How can I help my animal stay as healthy as possible until the end? And what if I'm not there when she passes?
So that's a very good question. And what you can do for them is just to be as present with them as you can, and deal with it moment by moment as to what happens, because they need different things in different moments. So I can't just answer that question with a blanket response. Each animal is different, just like every human's experience is different. But one of the things that I just need to say to people is, this is true for humans and animals alike. And I'm sure many of you on this call right now, and those of you listening that are watching this on video, it's very frequent that people have experiences of animals or humans that were dying that waited for somebody to get there. And it's also true that a lot of people have experiences, and I've had both, where you're there, you're like, I'm going to be there when this animal goes or the human dies, and I'm going to be there, and you stay with them, and you stay with them, and you stay with them. And suddenly you get up, go to the bathroom or whatever you have to do, and you come back and they're gone. Sometimes humans or animals choose to go when you're not there, and other times they'll wait until you are there. And so I always tell people to if we could just breathe and allow the experience to be what it's supposed to be, it'll be the way it is supposed to be. Teza, when she died, I was not here. And for a long time, years actually, I was devastated by that, until she actually gave me this statement the day she died. I got this message from her, and it was one sentence. I mean, she gave me more than one sentence, but this one sentence has stayed with me. And she said to me, I left not when you were furthest from my body, but when you were closest to my heart. And so your physical presence is not always necessary to be there, because your heart connection is what matters most. And that does not depend on time or space.
Okay, Dawn, next question. When a notable disaster happens, do you feel something ahead of time, or do the spirits give you a break and only call you in as needed?
I am only called in as needed. The other thing that happens with me is it fluctuates throughout my life. If I'm under a lot of stress, or have a lot of things going on in my life that require my constant attention in the physical realm, my guides don't call me ever to do any of these things. I sometimes have gone through years of not being called, and then I go through stretches where I'm called once or twice a night sometimes. So it just depends. But it always is based on what my guides would never call and ask me to do something. There have been a couple of natural disasters that I've been called in on. There have been a couple of other things. I will just say that I'm not going to go in. I would prefer on this call not to go into this detail for reasons of privacy for people. I was called in to help with a mass shooting and to deal with that. That was a difficult one. I won't go into details on that. I have the earthquake in Haiti that was not this last one, but the one prior to that. I can't remember how many years ago that was. I was called in to help with that. I did not know what I was actually working on. I was helping people. I was in a hospital ward, is what it looked like. I had 7 beds assigned to me. There was a screen, very, very primitive. I thought I had gone like back in time almost, but it was a very primitive screen. And on the other side of that, there was a person that talked to me periodically, and that person happened to be a woman. She had 7 people assigned to her, and I was aware that we were in a long line of people that all had 7 beds assigned to them. So I was actually seeing other people in the physical that were doing the same work that I was doing, and that was one of the clearest times that I understood that this was not unique to me by any means. I also knew that since I was a kid, but this was pivotal as an adult, to understand that there are many other people doing this. I don't think I could be teaching this lecture right now, or when I do 2-day workshops on this, that I wouldn't be able to sit there and teach this if I thought I was the only one that had this, because I would feel so much like a freak that I wouldn't want to talk about it. But I've met other people in the astral working with this, and in this particular one, they would bring in 7 people, put them in each bed, and then I would go to each one and work with them. I remember this one elderly gentleman was in the bed, and he kept feeling like he had a boulder sitting on his chest, and I was just very much aware that he had been uncovered from heavy like concrete or something like that. And a lot of them were like that. They had crushing wounds and things like that, and they just needed help to let go. And they either needed to say something to somebody, communicate something before they could let go. And each one of them successfully did. And when I woke up, I had then heard about the earthquake in Haiti. So I did not know that before I had this experience. Within an hour or 2 after waking, when I heard the news, I heard of it. So then I realized that that's where I felt that's where I had been. As far as knowing anything in advance, I don't usually know anything in advance. Sometimes I do. I shouldn't say. Let me. I'm going to renege on that answer. Yes, there are sometimes I do know in advance. Sometimes car accidents in our area, I know just before they happen, or I'll feel it. Frequently, I will feel something and know that I am being pulled somewhere, and I'll actually check our local news or check our local 911 feed and see that there's an accident, and I will just go into meditation for a second and send my love and best wishes to whoever's there, because I know that I was like pinged for a reason. So yeah, sometimes that does happen to me.
Dawn, what would happen if you declined to help someone cross over?
I actually have declined to help somebody cross over before. I tried to decline, and when it was Margaret's mother, for example, because I thought it would be too emotional. I wasn't sure how that was going to be for Margaret. I have had some that I was confused on, and somebody else steps in to answer that question.
Why do some humans need help in crossing and others do not? And do animals ever need help?
Yes, I've also been called in on animals. I've actually been invited in by some of our own animals here when they crossed, and I was able to journey with them. I want to share one of those actually, because I think that would be really kind of cool thing to do. To answer the question as to why some need help, it just depends. Sometimes things interfere in our crossing. Accidents can be traumas, can be disorienting, and people will get disoriented and not know what to do. I have had people that were murdered, for example, and blindsided by the energy of that and what that was about. I've helped with those. It doesn't have to always be a trauma, though. Sometimes I'm just called in because somebody wants somebody to be there. And so I would like to give 2 examples of this. One is more dramatic. I want to give an example of a horse at our place that passed away. She was actually the first horse that I ever saw euthanized. So it was a monumental thing for me. Her name was Gigi, and she was 40 years old. And she had gone into a colic, and basically her organs were shutting down. At 40 years old, she was dying of old age, basically. But our veterinarian came and everything, and so she said it was just time to help her out. So we were going to euthanize her, and Gigi was lying down. But after the vet gave the injection, or just before she gave the euthanasia fluid, the vet asked me if Gigi was ready and if Gigi had anything she wanted to say or share or anything before she left. And Gigi was ready. And so we went ahead, and the vet injected her with the euthanasia fluid. And all of a sudden, Gigi's legs started kicking. And I'd never seen this before. So I thought, at first I thought, oh my God, is she struggling? And then somebody else who was standing there, it was Bonnie, was standing there with me. And she said, she's galloping. And she was clearly galloping. I mean, it was clear. And so Gigi says to me, I said, girl, let go of your body. Let go of your body. And she said to me, come with me. This is really cool. Can you come with me? And I said, sure. So not physically. I didn't physically go with her, obviously. But so she invited me to come along with her. And it was the greatest experience because she was galloping across this pasture. And I could see, again, if you go back to that chalk line thing, there was a split rail fence. And clearly that was the chalk line. And I knew where I was allowed to go and where I couldn't go past with her. And she got to this fence and she jumped the fence. And there was another fence just further down, perpendicular. And there was a woman sitting on that fence, on the top of the fence, straddling, one leg straddled over. And I knew who it was as soon as I saw her because we knew Gigi's owner. And Gigi's owner had passed away. That's why Gigi ended up with us. And it was somebody that we knew. And I saw her on the fence. And she had a rope with her, and she was waving to her, and Gigi just galloped to her, whinnying, and Carol jumped on her back, put the rope around her neck, and the two of them took off galloping across the field, and that was the last I saw of Gigi. And so when I said to her, leave your body behind, girl, she was like, oops, sorry, and just like that, the legs stopped moving, and she was gone. But that was my first experience of euthanasia where I actually went with them while I was awake. I mean, it wasn't a dream. That wasn't a dream. That was a real awake experience. And I was going to share another story about that, and now it went out of my head. Sorry.
Dawn, we're going to circle back to something that you shared with everyone a little while ago. But this person is saying, the people in the cloud who were calling their loved ones, who exactly were they speaking to? Were they somehow telepathically communicating with the loved ones still in body? And what if that person was not open to the communication?
I've had those same questions myself. I believe that they were connecting to people for sure. And whether they were connecting to them in their sleep, it was telepathic, but whether they were connecting to them into their sleep or whatever, but they just needed to get that communication out. I obviously don't know that everybody got those, but it helped those people to cross. And clearly I was a part of making that connection. So whatever happened, happened. I don't know the answer to that question totally.
If our animal does come back to us, will we know what physical form he or she will be there when we meet?
That depends. Some people will have dreams of their animal coming back, and it'll show them what form they're going to be in. Sometimes the animal just shows up, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this cat reminds me of my old Saint Bernard or whatever. They can come back in different forms, but I've had animals of my own come back. I'm waiting for one of mine right now who keeps giving me messages that she's coming back, and she's trying out different things because suddenly I'll have an image of a little white dog, and then there'll be a little bigger dark dog, and she's trying out all these different things, and it drives me nuts because I'm like, just get here, let's just get on with this. But yeah, anyway, it's different for everybody.
Okay, we are really at the end, end of the questions that have submitted, unless somebody has some other, excuse me, some other questions and wants to very quickly submit them. But otherwise, I would like to thank everybody for being here. And not only that, there have been very many nice comments that have been made. Thanks to you, Dawn, for everything you have done and are doing. I want to assure everybody that Dawn will get to read all your comments and your thank yous, as I said, which have been exceptionally and wonderfully nice. And we really appreciate your kindness to say all these nice things that you did say. Thank you.
So I also then, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. I just want to say we did these lectures for two reasons. One is to connect with all of you again, because we've missed you terribly. And the other thing is, this will be, if COVID brought us a gift, that gift has been a different way to communicate and reach out. Some of you who have followed our newsletters and stuff, we're in the middle of building an addition onto our building. It's actually not an addition, but we're renovating our building for what we're calling the Learning Center, which will be a place for me to have in-person workshops. But the other thing it has is it's going to have is the technology to also have like either Zoom teachings or some other venue like that, so that we can combine in-person and remote learning. And so we're trying to get that built. It's taking a lot of our resources and a lot of time. We did not make it for this fall. We had hoped maybe this fall we would start to have something in person, but we're not. In the meantime, we will be coming up with more lecture ideas. I'm also going to be hosting some online workshops that we will charge for. There'll be some free ones, and there'll also be some that we will charge for. So keep an eye out. We'll communicate to everybody as to what we do. In the meantime, I just, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank everybody for being here. And just please, as you go through the rest of your day, if you could just take a minute at the end of this, when you hit end and you're off of here, could you just take a minute to sit and take a few nice deep breaths from your heart, and just with gratitude, send your love out to those of your friends, loved ones that are in spirit, whether they're animal or human, and just be receptive to feeling them say something back to you, because they're right there, and they're right there loving you. They feel your love, and just take a minute to allow yourself to feel that and to connect from that space. And I just want to thank you all again, and we'll be in touch.